Hey everyone, Mike here today with some early impressions here of 2 Point Hospital. This is one of those sim kind of games where, you gotta build rooms, hire staff, manage people, and it's one of those very casual, not too difficult kind of sim games. Some people have taken a comparison to Theme Hospital, which is kind of in a similar vein, but yeah, anyways, this is early impressions, right? I've done the first 3 levels. There's a remix version that I can play as well, which I haven't touched yet. And in the second area here, I've completed one, and I've started some of the next 2 levels as well. So about 2 hours in to the university here, and about 3 hours in on this area, this wealthy town of Flemington. So completing 1 star in both of these has unlocked more areas as well, which I've not really dabbled too much in these hospitals yet. But yeah, there's also DLC, of course. So they've done all sorts of add-ons to this game over the years. But anyways, let's go ahead and load up this level. I'm about 3.5 hours into this one. And kind of take a look at the game and potentially make a shorter video. I'm going to load in the university one as well as a comparison here. So I'm just going to throw in some bins here, deal with a little bit of the garbage, seeing as we don't have too many bins around. Alright, so when you first start off, you usually have just one small area, and as I zoom out here, you can see I've expanded down here, I've expanded to the right recently, and I have extra plots of land I can also buy. But the game itself is pretty straightforward. They've done a really good job ramping up the difficulty and the amount of stuff you have to deal with. They start you off with the basics. So what do you need? You need a reception, so guests can come in and check in, and then you send them off to the general practitioner's office. From there, you can either figure out what they need, send them to the pharmacy, get them on their way. Otherwise, you don't know what they have and you need, further diagnostics or diagnosis, I guess. And so where this game gets a little interesting is that you definitely have cases of patients kind of cycling back and forward. So we have a patient here that actually needs a deluxe clinic. Let's get one of those built. I've not built one yet. The game automatically chooses stuff that you require to make this room work, and then you can optionally throw in more things to help you out. This hospital is in a cold climate, so we'll add in a radiator for heat. And I'm looking at the prestige here. What else can we do? Put in a coffee maker potentially. Not really. There's not a whole lot of room. Can at least put in a plant? No. We could put in a poster though. Make this hospital room in particular a little fancier, a little more attractive. Not that it actually changes their functionality necessarily, but it's one of those things that the guests do appreciate, that your various patients like. And so yeah, this requires a doctor. There's a doctor on the way now, and that's that. So yeah, the game itself, I think, is pretty interesting. At the beginning, I didn't find it particularly difficult or challenging, but as I've been moving on and getting more and more different rooms required and different illnesses and stuff like that, the game has a lot of interesting mechanics in it. And so one of the things that I've been noticing a lot recently is, especially in another level, is what happens when you have a doctor that doesn't necessarily have a lot of skills and isn't a very high level one. Well, one of the things that happens is they can't diagnose problems as quickly as experienced ones, especially with upgrades and stuff. And so you get into this cycle of, all right, you've got someone who comes in, they go to the general practice, the GP's office. GP doesn't know what to do, so you send them off to the general diagnosis, right? So you got a nurse who does a bit of extra testing, and then they'll head back and see the results. Is there something that they can figure out? Yes or no? No. Then we send them to cardiology to do more testing. Then you send them back. And, is there something that you can figure out? Yes or no? And sometimes no. So you send them off to the ward for longer term testing. And then after that, normally the problem's found, and then you send them off to wherever they need to cure their problem. And so if we look at this person here, this person's got no health left, so there's a pretty big chance they might actually die here and not be cured. And as you can see, this person's been here for a long time. And so there's this kind of new second layer in this game starting to develop, where it's like, hey, I gotta keep each of these stages kind of close to each other, because if I have a patient that has to come back to one of these general GPs, 4 times, well, I want to make sure they don't have to, go from this building to room here, back to here, back to here. That's a lot of time of them walking, and so the longer it takes to determine their problem, the more likely they are to die, like this patient here unfortunately did. Like I said, if we didn't solve the problem now, his health was too low and he was going to die, and of course he unfortunately has passed away. So of course the nice thing about this game is that it's not very punishing. It's a very light-hearted game. There's a lot of silliness, depending on what the problem is for the various patients. Like, this patient here has great anatomy, which means he needs to go to a aromatherapy, which is here, where they're gonna spray the color back into him. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, well, we still get paid. But unfortunately, that patient still doesn't leave necessarily happy or satisfied. So that's the general setup of this game. It's yeah, I think it's pretty fun. It's oh yeah, I didn't give him a bonus quick enough. Whoopsie. New illness, litter bug. Hey, bacterial infection that causes the sufferer to discard items at random. So yeah, all the illnesses and all the stuff like that in this game are just fun silliness. I really appreciate what they've done. It works out pretty well, and yeah, we'll train this guy so he can deal with ghosts, because hey, when some of your patients die, which fortunately happens, well, sometimes they come back and haunt the hospital, so our janitors can deal with those ghosts. Yeah, all the machines are kind of silly as well, amusing, and just generally lighthearted. So I like what they've done here. I want to try and keep this video short. My first attempt at this game was almost an hour long, so I don't want to spend too much time. But yeah, the game's pretty good at letting you know when you need stuff. I've got no doctors here that are able to staff the psychiatry, so I can look at my doctors. I've got one who was heading that way. Yeah, I've got one heading that way already. But I could say I got one on a break and everyone else is working. So that tells me, hey, if there's only There's one on break and everyone else's stats look kind of low. I probably need another doctor. We've got one of them on call, good. I probably need another nurse as well, because even though I've got two of them kind of on break, all of them don't look particularly happy. Assistants, we're doing okay. And janitors, I got one of them in training, and we might need another janitor, so go ahead and hire some people here. You can get some pre-qualified, they cost a lot more, or you can go through and train them yourself and qualify them. In this case, I want pre-qualified people as much as possible, so we'll do that. Oh, you're in review. This is a bit of a side mechanic here. So you can see, oh, we got 4 for Employee of the Year and 3rd for Patient's Choice Award in the region. Or no, sorry, how many times I've won, rather. So that's good. And yeah, you got different leaderboards, right? If you want to figure out where money's going. You've got all sorts of graphs and stuff you can look at. Same with staff and happiness and all that stuff. Patience as well. You know, typical sim games, right? All of these games in the genre. But anyways, I think I'm going to keep this one short. I'm just over 10 minutes, or almost 12 minutes long, so I'll end it here. I'll probably do a longer, more complete video potentially next week, depending how quickly I go through this game. I'll be playing it non-stop, and yeah, it's been progressing nicely. I like a lot of the stuff they've done. Yeah, I've not looked at the remix versions yet, but I appreciate the build-up. You know, you start real simple. Every step of the way, they add 1 or 2 mechanic, 1 or 2 new things. And so, looking at these hospitals that I haven't touched yet, they're all adding new things I have to deal with. So it's a pretty fun balancing act, and each hospital also has its own, you know, little challenge. This university, for instance, I can only hire student nurses and doctors, and so I have to train them for all the attributes I want, and for certain treatments they require certain attributes to be able to do them effectively. So yeah, that's Two Point Hospital in a 13-minute nutshell, I guess. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and like I said, next week I'll probably have a follow-up on this game and maybe a bit of a longer video, but for now, initial impressions are really good.